Good morning, everybody. We are getting geared up to kick off for day 2. You are in the right place for the Profitable Regeneration Summit. Look forward to an awesome day 2. If you'd go ahead and navigate to the chat, let us know where you're calling in from this morning. Yesterday morning, we had a snowstorm and I had to run to town to get internet service. So checked into a motel room and spent the day in a motel room. I'm literally more at home today. This is our home office here in Ruby Valley, and pray that we are so grateful for the moisture. We do pray that our power will hold out, because if the power cuts out, then our internet does also. But love to hear. Oh, we do have welcome Candy. Welcome back. Caesar, welcome from Arizona. We've got people from Arizona, Texas. It's getting cool in Arizona. Yeah, you probably don't have snow there though, like we do, right? Awesome. We got an international audience, California. Yeah, if you're just jumping on, put in the chat where you're from. Hey, welcome Dallas from Wheatland, Wyoming. Glad you're able to join us today. And David from Southeast Nebraska, thank you. We appreciate you offering the prayer yesterday, the invocation on this, and we'll carry that prayer into today. Appreciate that. I thought you were in Texas, David. Are you just visiting Nebraska, or am I off?
And that was, I was in Oklahoma for a while, so it wasn't Texas. Close.
Oh, okay. I was clear off. All right. We've got folks from Nevada, Virginia, Colorado, Tennessee, Montana, Iowa, Dakota, Mississippi. Very good. Very, very good. Well, we're sure grateful that all of you are here with us. More people are popping in. We'll give them just a couple minutes before we officially kick off. We love to see your smiling faces also. As you introduce yourselves in the chat, and love to have you turn your videos on to make this an interactive experience. And you know what? There just might be some rewards for those that do that. Okay, very good. Okay, good question. What are the topics today? Can anybody guess what we're going to talk about today? Profitability and regeneration. After this brief intro and recap from yesterday, we're going to welcome Dr. David Cole. He's our keynote speaker. He will be on stage here at 9:30. And then I'll give you guys a little insight, because you're here, into what the day looks like. Let me share my screen and we'll roll through what day two looks like.
What is Dr. Cole covering?
Oh, thank you, Selena. Glad you're able to be here. He's going to talk about the big picture of economics and how it applies to our farms and ranches, breaking it down. You know, he can understand both things, but he's a producer. He'll break it down into what we can actually do to be profitable in our businesses. So here is the lineup for today. David Cole kicking off at 9:30, and then we'll have Dr. Will Winter, Josh Kirpin at 12. I'll be speaking at 1, Roger Ingram at 2, and we'll round out with Doug Ferguson at 3 o'clock. These are all Pacific time. So I think Micah got you, everybody, an email with this. Will Winter is a holistic veterinarian. He's going to be talking about practical ways to be able to care for animal health without being dependent on this whole chemical pharmaceutical treadmill. Josh Kirpin, a great business consultant from Canada and producer. Roger Ingram, probably know him from his involvement with Ranching for Profit. He will be speaking about the principles of regeneration, profitability, making it work within a family setting. And Doug Ferguson, we all know, as the great sell-by marketer. So very, very good. I want to, as we kick off today, you guys got to meet. You can see Selena on camera. often on camera. She's actually commuting today. Nick, good to see you on camera. Oh, we got a few people on here. Debbie, welcome back. Emma, thanks for jumping on here. We introduced some of our team yesterday. We got to meet Micah, Lydia, and Selena, and probably heard some of our kids in the background. My wife and I are blessed to be the parents of 9 children. We want to introduce Austin. He's also part of our team. You'll get to meet him more as you go into the next class, the Profitable Steward class. He's actually one of the facilitators and strategists in that class, meeting with people one-on-one, helping them to find the next steps in their businesses. So Austin, would you please introduce yourself, tell folks where you're from and a little bit about what you do with Ag Steward?
Absolutely. So I'm Austin Black. I am a Midwestern boy from West Central Missouri, about an hour south of Kansas City. And my wife and I have a small cow-calf operation there. We've got 3 young girls, 7, 5, and 2. So we are busy all the time. There's never a break or downtime for us. We love enjoying the outdoor lifestyle and farming and ranching and homeschooling and growing a big garden, all that good stuff. Have an extensive background in agriculture, also have a beef cattle publication that we own and an ag marketing agency. So very well versed in all sectors of agriculture and especially on the cattle side of things. With Jared, I've been fortunate enough to work with him for about the last, forever it seems like at this point. It's probably been close to 2 years now. It's been a lot of fun being with Ag Steward and really helping farmers and ranchers understand their business and their strategy that they need to implement to be profitable and sustainable and regenerative, and working alongside folks to just navigate the challenges that you're experiencing every day and help you find that next step and best solution. So I'm involved a lot more with, like Jared said, the Profitable Steward event that you guys will have an opportunity to be part of next month and really dive into some of those next step opportunities that we have. So it's a lot of fun to be part of Ag Steward and to see the impact that Jared makes with his clients and with the people that work with him, and just see just the overall community that is here, I think is really inspiring. So I'm excited to be a part of the event.
Thanks, Austin. Yep, Austin's great. He comes from an agricultural background, so he gets what we do, the lifestyle that we live, but he also is very financially astute. He gets the number part of it, and that is really his strength, as well as just strategizing what your next step is. So when you sign up for the class, that's one of the bonuses, is you'll get a session with Austin the next day, the workshop class that we'll be talking about here in just a minute. So thanks, Austin. Appreciate it. Selena, would you be willing to, are you in a safe place? Are you parked now? Selena is on her way. She might not actually be parked yet. We'll jump into the next phase.
I'm good. No, I'm right here.
Oh,
Yep.
There you are. Okay. Yep. She's driving kind of school bus to meet the school bus. Three of the homeschool kids here in the Valley, they are cross-country athletes, and they are headed to Winnemucca, Nevada to compete today. So I know each of us have family members. Some of them are on this call. Some of them are out doing the day-to-day work so that we can be on this call, and many of them are right beside us in what we do. And so big thanks to our families and appreciate them. Thank you, Selena, for jumping on. She's going to do a quick recap from yesterday, some of the highlights. While she does that, if you guys would put in the chat, if you were here yesterday, put a 2 in the chat because you're here for day 2. If you're here for the first time, if you missed yesterday, put a 1. So we got lots of 2s. Doesn't matter either way. Selena's going to do a brief recap. It's better to be just as valuable to be reminded as it is to learn. So take it away, Selena.
Okay, so yeah, it's definitely, if you weren't there yesterday, it's definitely worth going back and listening to. I was talking to Jared, my older daughter, McKady. She's 20, and I says, this is like a dream team. Like if you could have all these people on your team and meet with them once a week. I mean, at the end of a year or 2, you would be sitting really well in all ways, emotionally and financially and biologically. And anyway, it was just a really neat lineup and definitely worth going listening to. It started off with Jared talking about the history of regenerative agriculture. And, you know, you always think, oh, well, yeah, I get it, I understand it, but it's worth it to hear it again and to really have that solidified and be reminded of why we're doing what we're doing and why it matters. And, you know, if we if we don't remember the history and we don't know what a part it played, then it's most likely to repeat itself. And so we need to be aware. Then we had Dr. Rich Brazil, and he was talking about knowing your numbers, knowing all your numbers, from, you know, your grazing plans to your AUMs to your all your bookkeeping numbers, and how that they all fit together. And fortunately, we have amazing people like that to get agriculture, and then also have the gift and ability to go out and create the software so that we don't have to put in the grind of all the worksheets and the stuff. So it's not really our area of expertise. Most of us is agriculture. So they've put together this software, and he explains that. It's really phenomenal. Then we had Tara Durkart talking about maybe seem like a kind of out there piece because it's getting on the touchy-feely side of things. But it's so important because we can work and work and work. And if we have our subconscious and our false beliefs and old patterns that keep holding us back and keeping us from moving forward, we can just work ourselves into the ground and never make the progress that we want to. And so she explains, you know, how we can push through that and what that looks like, and ways to learn more about it. So definitely worth listening to. Judith Schwartz, just a phenomenal lady that has been such a benefit to the regenerative agriculture industry, and the books that she's wrote. I'm terrible with names. Jared could throw out some of the names of books that she's written, but just amazing to hear some of her experiences and the caliber of people that she's been able to interview and meet and go and do some things with all over the world that have just done some phenomenal things in the regenerative world. So what a treat to hear some of that. Mike Calicrate, I was wishing we had a lot more time with him, because I feel like that's kind of the missing piece. We know a lot of things. We're starting to put pieces together, but we need an outlet for the product that we're raising, no matter how good it is and how well we are increasing production and the AUMs and restoring the land and having this healthy product. If we don't have anywhere to go with it, it's not going to benefit anybody, and including ourselves. So what Mike is doing is just phenomenal. Really, really worth listening to and learning more about. And then we had Mary Jo Ehrman, Farming Without the Bank is her book. And I would say to definitely listen to her, but then go read the book for sure if you haven't already, because and if you've read the book and you've heard from her before, you probably did not hear the presentation that she gave yesterday. Mm-hmm. If you want to see some fire and to really understand, you know, what succession planning really should be, and why we have this weird warped mindset around it. You know, she's got an opinion on it, and it's worth hearing. You know, then talking about life insurance and how it all ties in is really important to how we can set up succession planning in a way that benefits multiple people, how we can get away from banks and why, and how we need to keep the ranches in the hands of the agriculturists instead of in banks, and how we can do that. So, wow, amazing. Then Lloyd Nelson.
Her website is Farming Without the Bank. There was a question in the chat about the book that applies to the Canadians. There's a link on there. If you just go to farmingwithoutthebank.com, it will have both the book for Americans and the book for the Canadians. She has colleagues in Canada to be able to service your needs if you're interested in the infinite banking principles.
Okay, yeah, and then we jumped into Lloyd Nelson, again, kind of getting on the fringe of things. But if you had the ability to take what you are already doing and have it expanded and increased by 80% without you having to do more work, and just because you're willing to tap into the energy that is all around us and have that working with you and for you. It's
Oops, they kind of cut out there just a minute. There's a question in the chat there. What if you missed day one? Not to worry. It is available for replay. and I'll post that again in the chat here. It is on our YouTube channel. There you go. Okay, just scroll up a little bit if you're just jumping on here. It is on the Profitable Ag Steward YouTube channel, and there's a specific playlist. It may not be public. It's probably just a private link. So if you search for it independently, just look for your email and it'll come there. Okay.
So yeah, we'll have that link sent out today, right? Or is it already sent out?
Yep, it's out. It's out right now.
Okay. So one of the things I would say is we're giving you lots of resources, lots of links, lots of places to go, but just take note of them. Keep them in a safe place, but don't leave here, because this is where the gems are happening today. So make note of those for later, but stay here, stay engaged. And if you know people that are not on here that need to be on here, please reach out to them and let them know the value that is here. Is really our desire to just get this information into the hands of many people as we can that are ready for it, and that it can serve and bless their lives. So yeah, last we heard from Ken Hamilton. He has done years and years of research on what really makes a difference. And he's not just playing a guessing game. He's not just looking at the animal saying, oh, it's a pretty animal and I can sell it for lots of money. He has scientific data. He goes and tests the meat and all the things that they do and what difference it makes. He has all the scientific evidence to back it up, and some amazing steps that we can take now to take leaps and bounds, strides forward to creating the quality product at such a cheaper path, I guess, to get there, and much quicker as well. So need to hear what he's saying.
Lots of questions around his presentation specifically, and I'd encourage you to go back and watch the replay first and foremost. And again, that's out. We'll be editing up each individual speaker and sending that out. Right now, it's just the raw recording start to finish, with the technical challenges in the middle and everything, but that's okay. You can plug that in and listen to it. And then from there, we'll continue to be a resource to be able to help you on that regenerative journey, whether that's plugging in, working with Ken or Mary Jo or any of these other speakers. Thank you, Selena, for that recap. And I know each of you, I wish we had time that we could open it up and just get from each of you a gem that you took away from the presentations yesterday. I know that I've heard, I think, all of these speakers with the exception of Judith speak, and I have read one of her books, but I took pages of notes and screenshots and things that I wanted to save and remember and go back and revisit. So with that, I encourage you to also pull out your journals or open up a new page on your word processor, take notes. You can take screenshots and copy and paste them into your notes. If you're taking digital notes, that's a good way. Picture's worth 1,000 words. I also shared in the chat there the link. It's not too late. If people jump on right now, they can catch David Cole here coming up in 10 minutes. So if you know of people that should be on here that you would like to invite, please take a minute and invite them. And then after that, we encourage you to put your phone away, put it on airplane mode or silence or do not disturb so that you can stay focused, be attentive, and be able to take notes during this presentation. And again, acknowledge those that are on camera and want to invite you to jump on camera and make this interactive as well. Be looking to the chat and learning and interacting with other people in the chat. That's a great way. I have created business deals that have been mutually beneficial from the chat in some of these groups. Specifically today, Josh Kirpin, that's how he and I met. We were at a mutual event that we were both belonged to. It was Strategic Coach, and he made a comment, and I'm like, hey, you're a farmer? And so we started that up, and then he later came to speak on my podcast. He's going to be on the summit today. So absolutely, if somebody makes a comment, feel free to private message them, share your contact information, build this community, and create a momentum that carries beyond this event. So as we get ready to
So speaking of building the community.
Yes, go for it.
Yes. So speaking of building the community, Jared was offering the 2-day class that's coming up in November. And the dates on that are the 6th and 7th. I don't have it right in front of me.
Yep, 6th and 7th
Is that
of
right?
November. That is
6th and 7th. And so we've had some, so this is the 2-day workshop that is, it's specifically diving into each of the different categories that are essential for our businesses, you know, including stewardship, legacy, family, working relationships, working on the business, numbers, profitability, regeneration, like the really diving into each of those. And Jared shares a wealth of knowledge there for 2 days, and you can work specifically on your business through that, through those 2 days. And so it's very hands-on and engaging, well worth your time. So we've had some questions about that, just like if they're not able to attend on those days, what are the other options?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So if you're not able to attend live, we encourage you to, well, first and foremost, make it a priority to be there live. Yes, you can catch the replay. It will be recorded. That is for review for the people who show up live. You won't get the value out of it if you're not there. So we encourage you to set those 2 days aside and be there, have a member of your team there for the whole time. We get it that it's a sacrifice. We get that it's a commitment, but that's part of the learning. We've priced it at the price because we know the real commitment is not the price you pay, it's the time you invest. And so that is our ask from you, as you set aside those 2 days. And yes, there will be a recording to go back and review.
Kind of the along with it, like, who is it that should be setting aside these 2 days? Who is this for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate you bringing that up. We had that come up yesterday, but let me just try to make this really clear. So the first group is for beginners ready, willing, and able to create a $100,000 plus business. $100,000 because that replaces your off-farm income. So it's more that it takes it from side hustle to, hey, I can do this full time. So they're beginners ready to make this into a business. The second would be existing businesses ready to scale by utilizing a proven framework. So you realize, hey, there's some things that are not quite where we need to be able to scale. A lot of times that's people problems. Maybe they're working on the legacy and succession plan. It could be enterprise accounting and really dialing in on where your efficiencies and inefficiencies are. So existing businesses that are ready to scale by utilizing a proven framework would be the second group of people. So farmers, ranchers, most of our attendees have a livestock component, but we do have a handful that are row crop farmers and do not have livestock. So it really will address on both sides of that, both the farmers and the ranchers.
So, like, who can attend this event?
Yeah. Oh, so when you register, this is a family/business pass. So we encourage the business owners first and foremost to be there. And then if you have a strategic person that's in a management position, whether that's a sibling, a son, a daughter, or a hired manager, they're absolutely welcome to attend. You will likely be broken up in the breakout sessions between your businesses, and that's done strategically so that you can get outside input. And then after hours, you'll be able to come back together and continue to build out the plans that you make.
Yeah, we recently talked to somebody who said that, they've just been trying to build that unity and combined vision and going forward together, and the generations working together and planning for the future generations. And they said it's just really hard. They just feel so alone. And so if you can get your people there, it's really helpful to be starting off on the same foot. I mean, we've heard multiple people ranching for profit, when they can make it a generational thing and bring as many people on their team so that you're speaking the same language, so to speak, and building from there, it's much more powerful. So.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I think those were the top 3 questions. Was there anything else, Selena?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Selena. So again, a prayer to go out and to our families, wherever they might be, whether they're sitting beside us or in a car driving or out doing the work. So we appreciate that. All right. So you guys ready to dive into day 2? If you guys are ready, if you're excited, if you're prepared, maybe even a little bit nervous, just type in the chat, I'm ready. We need to know, because this class is really for you guys. Like for us, it's a labor of love. It's a lot of work to put on this, but it's also really rewarding. And you know what? I want to serve this regenerative agriculture community, but I'm right here beside you, learning, striving to apply, ready to put into practice the things that I learn. It ends this afternoon at approximately 4:00. The real work begins after this ends. You'll come and you'll be inspired. You'll have some insights, and then it's up to you to do the work of applying it. And I get it. And I get how it is that perhaps, the weekend comes, Monday, you're back in the grind again. And pretty soon 6 months have gone by and you're like, oh yeah, what about that class that I attended back in October? So to be able to help with that, here's a reminder of the tool that I gave you yesterday. It's simple. It's a journal. You can do it digitally. You can do it by hand. You're going to have a lot of epiphanies that you're going to write down, and you can write those down on maybe one, wherever, all of your pages. Literally, I had a friend of mine who filled up a full brand new yellow page notebook from one of legal pad from one of these classes. And that's great. Go back and review that. But even more importantly, have a separate page and put down the things that you commit to yourself to take action on. Those things that not only were epiphanies and great ideas, but it's like, no, I need to do this. I want to do this. I will do this. That's how you make true and consistent progress. So that's my invitation to you. Yes, take lots of notes, but most importantly, what are you going to take action on? And I would love to hear, even in the chat, as that idea comes up, throw that out there. Hold each other accountable and say, I will fill in the blank. Okay, you guys got that? Okay, very good. Well, we are ready to hit the ground running here with day 1. David Cole, Dr. David Cole is in the room, and we'll invite him to go up and unmute and pull up on stage here. Dr. Cole, welcome. Welcome to the Profitable Regeneration Summit. I can't think of a better speaker to be able to address these topics that are at hand. I heard you speak, I believe it was about 20 years ago at an executive link meeting in O'Neill Basin at A.G. Smith's place. And
yes.
I was part of the executive link at that time, and our board met there at A.G.'s place. And I remember you drove out across that bumpy road and gravel road out to the middle of nowhere, and you spoke to us. And I still remember some of the principles that I learned from that meeting 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that you kind of have the ability as you understand economics, but I think there's a little bit of a gift of the futurist. You said some things that I think were eye-opening for a lot of us, including predicting that, holy cow, this housing market isn't sustainable. There's going to be a shift in the market. And lo and behold, a year and a half later, it happened. Right? So we look forward to hearing from you today, Dr. Cole, and we really are honored that you would join us and you'd be part of this group.
All righty. Well, hey, it's a pleasure to be here today, and I'll never forget, I went out jogging that morning, and they had spotted a mountain lion, and that kind of got my heartbeat up just a little bit. Well, hey, it's great to be with you. Let me further introduce myself. I'm Dave Cole from Virginia Tech. I'm a professor emeritus, still guest lecturer back at Virginia Tech in some of my old courses. I have 4 former students who are professors here at Virginia Tech, and do a little bit of traveling. This year I've been in 27 states, giving programs to lenders, producers, agribusiness, and policymakers. Also come to you as a fellow agricultural producer. We have a cow-calf hay operation But our signature business is Homestead Creamery. It's a business that was started 25 years ago. I was not there at the beginning. And what happened was the founders of the business had lost $1.2 million in the first 3 years of business. And they asked me if I wanted to come on as an owner, discussed it with my wife, and I went on as a business coach and as an owner. And one of the things is we got the business turned around. In our first year of business, we had about $600,000 in sales. This year we'll hit probably about 18 million. We have 6 small dairy farms, and I say small, they're only about 100 cows, and they produce milk. And you know what we do, folks? I got to be very candid. We go just the opposite of all these big companies. We sell our milk in the old-fashioned glass bottle. We sell A2 milk for lactose intolerant people. We have premium ice cream. You come back here on the East Coast, people know who Homestead Creamery ice cream is. And we're right in eggnog and custard season. You'd think it was a holiday product, but we started selling eggnog and custard about mid-September, and it'll go through December 31st. And it ends December 31st because what happens is people go on a New Year's resolution to lose weight, and our eggnog and custard is not conducive to that New Year's resolution. So I give you a lot of that background because, hey, I've signed on the loans of $8 million. And, some of the business practices I'll talk about a little bit later. We utilize them in that business. And so that was a long introduction of myself. This week, it's been interesting. I've been with the Virginia Leadership Group. These are adult agricultural people. And we went back to my old haunting grounds, upstate New York. And we visited many businesses. We actually visited Wegmans. It's a real superior grocery store business, family owned, by the way, very principle based. And we spent almost 2/3 of a day there. And then the group went on, visited Parliament in Canada, and they're now in St. Catharines, Ontario, and be coming back and visiting Niagara Falls and coming back. So I come to you as an academic, a traveler, but a business person. So let's talk a little bit about future-proofing your business and your life. And if you've got questions, you can hit those in. But what I'm going to do is start out and talk about the big picture. We're going to take you up 30,000 foot. We're going to look at the big picture. And then the concluding part of the program, we're going to talk about, 4 or 5 business principles that are very important, not only for business, but for life. Because I'm a big firm believer that you've got to have balance, particularly in this chaotic world that we have today. So let's move on and talk a little bit about an agricultural update. If I had to give you 2 words that really sizes up the farm economy, but it's the general economy as well, it's bifurcated. We've got, for example, the grain, the row crop, the specialty crop businesses, they're in an extended downturn. If we hadn't had COVID, the COVID blip, we'd be in about a 12-year downturn. And one of the things that we're really, really finding is that if you're kind of in a single enterprise or, single business model type of business, we're moving back to the 2 and 10-year rule. And I got to give you a reality. I was telling the people in Milwaukee yesterday, and it's called the 2 and 10-year rule. 2 out of every 10 years, the weather lines up, the markets line up, and you make tons of money. The other 8 years, boy, you struggle to hit break even. And boy, that is where you've really, really got to hone in on the business and the financials and the management and operating plan to back it up. One of the things that we're seeing, and I got to be a realist here, we're seeing mass consolidation occurring in this part of the agricultural industry. Now, let's go to the other side, livestock, diversified, value added. What we're finding, the most resilient and agile and nimble businesses usually have about 3 to 6 sources of revenue. And sometimes it's farm and ranch revenue, but then other times it'll be outside gigs. And for example, it'll do custom work, or you might have a consulting business on the other side. The beef industry right now, of course, is hot. And I call it the four factor rule. Of course, cattle numbers are down. The general economy is doing quite well. But the other factor is baby boomers like myself are getting out of the cow-calf business and moving to age-friendly businesses. I hope you all heard that, age-friendly businesses. And so they will have stocker cattle rather than the beef cow-calf type of operation. And this is kind of tapping numbers down, but a big trend in the agriculture industry, and I want everybody to hear this, is the movement toward protein. The carb to protein ratio right now is 4-to-1. Many folks are saying we've got to move back to a 1-to-1 ratio. And one of the things is animals that are on four legs, that could be beef, it could be pork, dairy cows, et cetera, they have very dense protein. And of course, chicken's right in there, fish is right in there behind. And that factor is really picking up steam, particularly the aging baby boomers, but also on the other side, the youth generation out there. However, when we were at Wegmans store the other day, they were saying now there's kind of a pushback in the past month or so. People are moving from beef more over to poultry. So again, this is, I'm giving you right up to date type of information out here. Here's another thing that's real interesting. Oh, I get irritated. I get irritated when everybody says, well, the debt to asset ratio is not that bad. And, there's a lot of equity. Remember, equity doesn't pay the bills. Profits, cash flow, backed up by working capital and liquidity gives you that resiliency. And I get in kind of an argument with the Wall Street Journal when they interview me. They'll go, well, the default rate's not any higher. The bankruptcy rate is not too much higher. Well, if you look at those factors, you're 2 years behind the times. And so one of the things I'm going to be very blunt, probably about 40% of grain farmers, row crop folks, will seek a refinance. And that's where you're going to have a strong plan. If the lender refinances you, then you've got to have a plan how you're going to preserve that working capital and liquidity. In other words, build that bridge out there. Here's the other thing. Our interest rates actually have doubled since a few years ago. And many of the rates, I know in our creamery, we've got one coming up in 2027 that's going to reset probably from 3%, probably up to 6 to 7%. So that's another added element. Moving along, what's a win look like in the grain and the row crops? Break even without government checks. If you're doing that, give yourself a pat on the back. And if you've had a marketing and risk management plan to support the break even, or capitalize on a small profit window, again, pat yourself on the back. But the key is not only to check the box, but to execute on the plan. It was I was listening to the introductory comments. Now we got to take it to the field. You got to execute and you got to monitor. The other thing is if the lender, provides working capital for you, in other words, through a refinance, well, what's going to be, the burn rate through that working capital, particularly if the losses continue. But I got to tell you, we use it in our business, and I just got the financials over. We do weekly cash flows, by the way. You don't have to do them, but we do them. And what's real interesting, we do financial sensitivity analysis, best, average, and worst case. But you know what we do? We do best of the best. In other words, we like to challenge ourselves. And guess what? Last week, we hit the all-time best of the best. But I think it's very important to do what I call profit planning and change scenarios on production, price, cost, debt service. And you know what this does? It establishes the guardrails, and then it gets you into more what I call objective decision making versus emotional decision making. So that cash flow projection and monitoring can be your best friend in business. But can I say future proof in your life? It also gives you kind of that peace of mind. In other words, kind of where you're going out there. So again, I want to stress that. If you look at the livestock diversified and value added, I come through with a 60-30-10 rule. And what's the 60-30-10 rule? Most businesses get into problems during the up part of the cycle. And the 60% is this: 60% of your profits go for efficiency first, growth second. Get better before you get bigger. That's a big theme, okay? Get better before you get bigger. 30%, you're going to have to build working capital. We're coming into an environment where a tweet can take off $2 trillion off the world balance sheet, stock market very quickly. Working capital is going to be your best friend. And one of the things that 30%, and boy, this is going to hit a certain segment of our industry. It's going to come November and December, tax management. And one of the things, don't get caught in the trap of spending $1 to save 20 cents to minimize taxes, then eating up all your working capital, or have additional debt service obligations. So when that cycle turns, you've got those debt obligations. In other words, tax management's important. Don't get me wrong. We use it in our businesses, but it's got to be that balance out there, okay? And so keep that in the back of your mind. You know what the other 10% is? 10% is, other life choices. In other words, you've got to enjoy life. You've got to have investments, sometimes outside the farm business. But be very careful. Don't let the 10% become 60%. What am I saying? In other words, I think if you remember 20 years ago, up in I call it the Mountain Lion seminar, one of the things is, I often mention killer toys. What am I seeing killer toys? I'm seeing some monster pickups, particularly in the beef industry. It takes 5 acres to turn them around. No, I'm joking, but I'm not joking. So just be very, very prudent with your profits. But boy, here's the big one. Disorganization and complacency are business, financial, and life killers. Did you hear that? Business, financial, and life killers. And you're most prone, particularly in the up part of the cycle. Where I'm noticing right now? In college athletics, this quick money is building a lot of egos. And boy, a lot of these young people are going to have some mental health problems in 4 or 5 years. Be careful, be careful, be careful. Now, let's move on. And I'm going to be blunt. Probably some of you aren't going to like it. But we've closed some trade deals, okay? But one of the things on your export market list, and why are exports important? $1 in $5 of income is generated through export markets. The big three, and I call it the big three, are Mexico to the south, Canada to the north, and then China. And one of the things, those export markets are in a state of flux. We don't know kind of where we're going. And one of the things that you got to be really careful of is counter tariffs. And can I give you an example? Last weekend, you know what happened in Canada? China came across with a deal a year ago. Basically, Canada would not accept EVs from China into Canada. So within 24 hours, they said, we don't want your canola. And so, you know what? China came back last weekend and said, hey, we will accept your canola if you'll accept our Chinese EVs. And then all of a sudden, our government officials were in Toronto, Lucknick, and he says, Canada, if you do that, we're going to penalize you. What I'm trying to say is agriculture is very vulnerable to counter tariffs. And in managing your business, one of the things that you got to do is do that sensitivity analysis, have that backup working capital reserve. And boy, we are very vulnerable to the counter tariff type of deal. The one thing, I've got to speak to some soybean groups here later this fall. One of the things that's still in control, and always remember this, Washington thinks they're in control, Beijing thinks they're in control, Moscow, but you know who's in control? Mother Nature. And one of the things is a global market can shift by a shift in weather. And here's one of the things that all of you on this deal, you need to have a go-to meteorologist. Now, a guy I do about 40 programs a year with is Eric Snodgrass with Nutrient Management. Eric and I have been doing programs together now for 12 years. Great person. I also follow the YouTube guys, Max Velocity, Ryan Hall, you all. And every one of you have got to watch the weather. I'm watching the weather course in the Southern Hemisphere. Eric just did a nice report on that. And here's the thing. When we talk about regenerative agriculture, why it's going to be important, and Eric's been saying this for a few years now, we have weather and extremes. You're going to go through extended dry periods with intense rainfall in a 24-hour period more than 2 inches. It's increased fourfold in the United States. But if you're in the mountainous region, which we're in the mountainous region here on the East Coast, it's 6 to 8 times. You know what? The recipe for this is what I call organic matter, regenerative type of agriculture. And so this is going to be very, very important. The one thing I'm very, very concerned about, folks, is the long-term tariff implications. We have really destroyed. I heard a speaker yesterday in Milwaukee say, well, these tariff things will be over in 2 or 3 years. No, 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 no. We have destroyed long-term relationships with some of our major trading partners. Now, we had to do some things, but again, that's why we had some of the trade agreements in place. And I'm very, very concerned about that. I got to tell you another thing everyone needs to listen to me about. We're losing public support for agriculture. I put public support. During COVID, boy, ag was the champion. We put food on the shelf. We kept people fueled, people clothed. Now there's a big backlash on agriculture from the general population. I want to give you an interesting statistic, and it's happening worldwide. Worldwide, we're urbanizing. United States, we're urbanizing. Think about this. At the turn of the century, year 2000, about 73% of Americans were urbanites. Today, it's 84%. And one of the things is the SNAP program, the foreign aid program. When we pulled back from foreign aid to agriculture, you know what China did? She doubled down. She doubled down to increase its support on the SNAP program. A former colleague, he's passed away at Kansas State University, Barry Flinchbaugh, always said, you have to have the SNAP program and support it to keep the non-farm politician or the, urban politician in the game plan. Bottom line, we're competing with more competition from the global south. And you notice I just didn't say Brazil and Argentina, the whole global south, Australia, New Zealand, Africa, and South America. One thing I want you to watch over the next 30 days is the November elections in key states. That's going to be a canary in the coal mine of how all this is going to be playing out, and particularly a canary in the coal mine for our upcoming midterm elections next year. Hey, you got to think globally, bring her down locally. Some of you are saying, well, global economics doesn't impact. Oh, yes, it does. Imported cost of imports and different things and the exports, it's out there. But let's go to China. China has got a demographic issue. Matter of fact, one of the bigger issues facing agriculture globally is going to be the birth rate. We need about 2.1 to 2.2 to have a growing world population. We're now down to 196. The United States is 163. China is 1.2. China has 1.4 billion people today. By the year 2050, that's only 25 years away, it will be less than 1 billion people. One of the things China's been experiencing is a stock market decline and a real estate decline by about a third. I hope that doesn't come to the United States because that could be a real game changer. But here is what's going on, folks. As I told the group in Milwaukee yesterday, the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and others have been extremely strategic. You know what we've been doing? We've been playing reality game shows. And what's happening is China has invested it's about $1.4 trillion now in 68 countries around the world, and they've spread their influence. And one of the things that, they're kind of being a strong arm out there. So when we talk about Taiwan, it's probably they're going to invade Taiwan, but they might create a blackout, which would almost be like the invasion. Let's go down to India, the world's largest population. We have been, they have been farm policy protectionism, and they are big producers of rice, wheat, and sugar. But one of the things is there's been a lot of criticism that they're using Russian oil. Well, sometimes we've got to read the history, and they've had a strong, close relationship over the centuries with Russia. And so their economies are doing fairly well. You go over to European Union and Great Britain, we basically created a united front. I say we because of some of our tariffs and different sanction threats on them, but they are investing more in their military. And one of the things is their tourism is still strong with people from the United States. But I just want to tell all of you on here, you really want to see your future, go to Europe, particularly go to Italy. Oftentimes you will see your future in Europe 5 to 7 years before you see it here in the States. Let's come back to North America, Canada and Mexico. Mexico, of course, Claudia Sheinbaum was elected the first female leader of Mexico. She's really fighting, she's got a pretty good approval rating, but she's fighting the cartels in Mexico, are very dominant in 5 states. It is our biggest trading partner out here. Of course, when we look at Canada, their leader, Mark Carney, he was the central banker of Canada and England, and I've actually met him twice. That was 30 years ago, not recently. And he's a very globally astute type of individuals. But boy, we need Mexico and Canada. And one of the things that you're going to see is we're going to compete as global bloc economies, North American, European, a global South, Asian bloc. And one of the things that's kind of on my radar screen, boy, the influence that the BRIC nations have had in Africa. And they're bringing a lot of agricultural production on board, and then just kind of a common currency where they trade back and forth. All you have to do is look at this map, and it tells you what's happened in 23 years. Look at China's influence in 23 years. Folks, when it's all said and done, China's influence in South America, it has been tremendous, and now it's paying dividends because they have been very, very strategic. Hey, let's come back to the United States. And as I told the group in Milwaukee yesterday, I look at the U.S. economy in 3 layers, 3 names: Alice, Henry, and Herman. Who are Alice's? They're asset limited, income constrained, fully employed. You will see them at the local convenience store. They're in their 2nd or their 3rd job. One of the things is these folks have been struggling. They had the COVID payments. They built up a lot of credit card debt, a lot of automobile debt. By the way, automobile firms, the suppliers of automobiles are filing bankruptcy now, and it's partly the Alice's. But you see, they're only 4% of the U.S. economy, but a large majority of people. These people have been really, really struggling, but they haven't been enough to throw us into a recession. The group you bet, and the beef industry better watch this group right here, the next 2 groups. The Henrys, they're high earners, not rich yet. earn between 100 and 500,000 in household earnings. Guess what? They can't afford to buy a house because they have high levels of university, particularly graduate school debt. Uh, they're priced out of the housing market. And one of the things is they haven't been around long enough to get the paper wealth in the stock market or real estate or Bitcoin or whatever it is. And so you know what they do? They do binge spending and they buy experiences. This group right here will buy that premium steak. They will, splurge. They'll go to a Taylor Swift concert or they'll go to Europe. However, listen to me very closely. These folks are very vulnerable to job layoffs and AI replacing them. I got to tell you, a scam that's going on. I'm just telling it like it is. Your big C-suite. I'm not a big fan, I'm sorry, of the C-suite corporate. In other words, the CEOs, the CFOs, the CEOs. You know what they're doing? They are laying off middle management, white collar jobs with the anticipation of AI replacing them. And if any of you know youngsters that are graduating from college now, you know the dilemma they're in. There's no jobs. And so what's happening is it makes the companies look real good. They get their bonuses, the stock goes up, they buy their stock back. And one of the things is it's creating an AI bubble. This one you better watch over the next 4 or 5 months because it's critical to certain components of the agriculture industry. And by the way, at our creamery, we have quite a few Henrys. And if the Henrys start struggling, we'll have a recession light. The group that's really powering a lot of consumer spending, which generates 70% of our economy. It's 10% of the population, 49% of consumer spending. Their nickname is Herman. High earners, rich, mobile, appreciated net worth, 1 to 10 to $25 million. And you know what's interesting? Oftentimes they're over 60 years of age. One of the things is they're about a third of our GNP. One of the things we've seen tremendous paper wealth increases, and what you've seen this investment in AI, and it's called the wealth effect. Every time a stock or the home increases $1 in value, you spend 4 cents more, and it can be up to 8 cents more. However, where some of the housing markets are contracting, like Boise right now, I got to be there in a few weeks. You'll see it in Florida now. They'll spend 8 cents to 20 cents less, and particularly the people over 60 years of age. And one of the things that's happening here is the Hermans are actually moving back toward grandchildren. That's a big movement now. I call them the helicopter grandparents. And one of the things that's happening is these groups are really powering the whole economy now. Now, I can tell you one thing that's not sustainable. It's our deficits. And I got to change this number. It just came out yesterday. It's 1.775 deficit this last year. They just developed the revised figure. We have $37.5 trillion of debt. It's not sustainable, folks. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about is that our fiscal spending is out of control. And everybody thinks the Federal Reserve is going to wave a magic wand, take care of all of our problems. Don't get caught in that trap. And so the balancing of inflation, unemployment, economic growth, it's going to be a real challenge. And I'm very concerned about this aspect. And by the way, when you spend more than you bring in, whether you're a farm business, ranch business, or whether you're the household, or whether you're the government, people are going to have to ask for higher rates of interest because of the risk. Who finances our treasuries and our bonds? Look at the trend. And the trend has gone from 50% 15 years ago down to 30%. I'm worried about this. And I'm worried about the long-term cost of money, which will be reflected more in the bonds and in the treasuries. And it's called Ferguson's Law. Great powers around the globe become less than a great power when the debt service is greater than the defense budget. Or debt service, that being interest, is greater than the defense budget. I call it the invisible fence. Any of you got dogs out in the yard and you put an invisible fence up, and then the dog goes over and hits it? We've already hit an invisible fence because this last year, in the past 2 years, interest on our federal debt's exceeding military budget. Here's another one you better watch very closely. Turn of the century, 78% of the world trade was in the dollar. Now it's 58%. That goes less than 50%. Guess what? We can't just wave a magic wand and cure the issues. Watch this AI replacing jobs, particularly white collar jobs. And the big ones that I'm watching, an extended housing market decline is already happening in Florida, Texas, and Arizona in certain parts of that state. And then a stock market decline of 30% or greater, more than the blip that we had in April. That blip we had in April is conditioning people to say, oh, it's going to bounce back. We have those 5, then we're into a deeper long-term recession. Now, let's go out 2025, 2050, and look at 10 trends that I think are important. Here's trend number 1. I heard a speaker the other day really knock regenerative agriculture, and I just kind of rolled my eyes. But soil and water health are going to be very, very critical. And regenerative agriculture, soil and water health, is regenerative to what? To the business and also to your personal life. If you've got healthy soil, healthy water, you'll have a healthy plant, animal, human being, and a healthy environment. When we were in upstate New York, we were talking about organic matter in the soil. And a couple of those farms, they've got it up into the 3 range. And one of the things is very, very important, capturing the water, retaining the water, et cetera, et cetera. I think another major trend that you're going to see is the initiatives of the Silk and Belt Road Initiative and the rise of the Global South. Here's my big point. Africa, will it be where Brazil was in the year 2000? A pushback that's occurring in Africa, the African nations are saying, hey, we don't want China colonizing us like the European nations did. And so they're getting pushback. So now what's Africa doing? They're doing a soft sell, kind of like our old Peace Corps. Instead of bringing the Chinese workers and prisoners over to build infrastructure, they're hiring people from the countries. Here's the other reality. We're into deglobalization. And agriculture tends to thrive when we have globalization. The big one that I think we all got to think about is this whole urbanization trend in the declining birth rate. It's long-term implication. But any of you that are in value added, the urbanization aspect can create. The other day, we had 3,000 people out to our open house at one of our dairy farms on the creamery. And boy, people are going, this is great. We got out of the city. We got out to get the kids. Actually, half of the people that came out were children, and they got them away from the cell phones. So, sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes it's an opportunity. Now, when you talk about technology and innovation, remember, it'll go through 3 stages: infatuation, disillusionment, reorientation. AI right now is an infatuation stage. It's creating a dot-com bubble similar to the year 2000. Something's going to happen probably within a year that's going to create the disillusionment stage, and people are going to say, I don't know. Now that could be, do we have enough power? It could be all of a sudden we're compromised by a foreign nation, etc., or compromised right here within. Here's another one. Women in agricultural industry will own and manage 60% of agriculture assets 2025, 2050. Anybody that's looking at growing your farm and your ranch, you are definitely going to have a female strategy. And one of the things is in acquiring assets, elderly female type of strategy. Women are really going to play a huge role. Also, the alignment with the next gen and transition management. When I talk about this, folks, there's 2 components. Estate planning is the transfer of the assets. the toughest one is transition of the management. And again, many of our farm and ranch businesses are family businesses. That's the tough one right there, is the transition management. I'm very concerned about this one right here. We're probably losing some of our competitive edge on research, education. We've got a brain drain. Many of our leading people now are going to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, just like World War II. A number of people came from Europe to the United States, and it was one of the major factors of the victory of World War II by the United States of America. That's going to be long-term implication. Now, here comes the big one, folks. And star this one, circle this one. One of the things that I see really occurring is the agriculture industry collaborating with the medical field, accelerated by AI in preventative and proactive health practices. Now, I'm not being RFK here, but one of the trends that's going to be driven by the younger generation is proactive health. It's interesting. My generation, you go to the doctor, it's about popping a pill, et cetera, et cetera. This next gen, what you're going to see within 2 years, this is going to happen within 2 years, you will see AI will develop an exercise plan, a food plan, a lifestyle plan that will help you maximize what we call life health. And boy, this one is just on the forefront. And it's going to be this is a very positive that I see coming in the agricultural arena. And again, this one is about ready to break, and it'll be accelerated by AI. Just a couple, you also have to worry about gray rhinos and black swans. We'll probably have an AI 9/11 like we had a 9/11. I don't know what it's going to be. I hope they don't shut down aircraft while I'm up there. That's one of the things you tend to get very, very concerned. Matter of fact, the news is right now when I'm flying, and we'll see if it plays out. How will we resolve the budget crisis in Washington, D.C.? Shut down the airlines. They'll get it done very quickly. And one of the things that you're really seeing is we got these regional warfares, Middle East, Ukraine, Russia, et cetera, et cetera. And it basically tests out new technology without being involved there. Now, let's go and hit it, future-proof life and business. And if you got questions, put them in there. And Jared, he's going to kind of look at them, and then he'll kind of question me. I really want to bring this all down to future-proofing the business and the life. Now, you know what? One of the things that you've got to do, you've got to be very strategic and very deliberate at managing controllables and managing around the uncontrollables. If you focus all your energy on the geopolitics, Washington, Beijing, Moscow, it'll drive you nuts. The tariffs and the sanctions. And of course, we have the weather in there. One of the things is your body here has X amount of energy, and it's up to you of where you're going to place that energy. And I find that people who are very, very successful, they're very deliberate at hitting the controllables versus the uncontrollables. The second thing is on the controllables, make sure that you monitor your financial, do the shock testing, have a risk management plan, have a cash flow plan and a profit plan. And here's one of the things is articulate how you got here, but how you're going to get there. And when we talk about mental health, remember, there's a balance in mental health and physical health. We don't stress enough physical health for the benefit of mental health. We have all these mental health programs, but mental health, physical health, spiritual health is very, very important in all of those. Those are the controllables out there. And today, we get a lot of people, and particularly in my age group that have retired, they're staying home, watching TV, and getting angry. And no, they are. I see them. Yet one of the guys I played basketball with, I went to his business, and he's got a quilt business, and he has 9 sewing machines where older people come in and they sew and chat with each other. And it was such a positive type of environment. And what I'm trying to say is right there is one of your keys to success. Now, I'm going to give you my REM game plan. This is a chart. You can print it off, take it back, and it has 12 qualities of what I call the management mindset. And listening to the introductory comments and saying, yeah, you're going to listen to a lot of folks. Now you got to take it back home and implement it. I had this business IQ and people were all checking the boxes, but I never found out whether they executed or monitored them. And you know what's top of my list? And I'll go into detail in some of these. Make sure you have your written goals, business, family, personal, but you're going to hear me say mental, physical, and spiritual as well. That balance in life. You know, a question I can ask each and every one of you, what's your cost of production by enterprise? And one of the things that I can tell you in our creamery, that's one thing that really turned our business around is knowing the cost of production and enterprise, where we could take the what I call the business energy and apply it to where we got the biggest bang for the buck, but also apply it where we were doing something valuable to the community. Here's another one, knowing the break even on major revenue sources. But here's the big one, folks. Having the operational plan to back up your cash flow plan on a monthly and quarterly basis. By the way, an annual cash flow plan is not acceptable. I'm up in Montana and I had a rancher come up to me. He goes, well, I only get my revenue once or twice a year. Why do I need a monthly and quarterly cash flow? My response was to him, hey, your expenses are throughout the year, your operational plans throughout the year. And one of the things is a monthly and quarterly cash flow plan. Now I'll have people throw up their hands and say, well, with everything that's going on, tariffs, sanctions, weather, how can I do it? This is where you do financial sensitivity analysis and you adjust prices, costs, and just various elements out here to provide those guardrails, which I talked about earlier. Also, we have about 5 ratios that we actually look at in our business, and boy, do we monitor them. Jesse sent them over on the weekly cash flow there. One that we watch for is working capital to expenses, and we aspire to keep it above 25%. That means we can operate on our money 25, 90 days or 25% of the year. Current ratio is fine. I'm not knocking it. Lenders will use it. But I like to have ratios that talk to us. Our coverage ratio, in other words, it's the repayment capacity to the debt service. We try to aspire to have it above 200%. We look at net margin. So these are a few of the common ratios. Here's the other one, having a written plan, whether you're commodity, value added, or the combination of both. Putting it in writing makes you commit. Here's a big one that I find that gives peace of mind, having a written risk management plan of insurances, standard operating procedures, compliance, will, estate plan. Very, very critical. Here's a big one I'm noticing amongst young farmers and ranchers, and I do quite a few programs nationwide with young farmers and ranchers. Fortunately, some of the organizations are cutting back on those, and that's bothering me. But one of the things is who's on that advisory team? It's your lender, it's your crop, it's your livestock, it is peers. For example, some of the people that may be in this educational program here. And you know what? We find that people that have informal or formal advisory teams are about 2 to 3 times more profitable. And again, it helps you kind of focus that energy. Here's the big one, development of the transitional management plan regardless. That is very, very critical because whether you're a startup, first generation, 7th generation business, it's very important to have that management plan. Who is going to step up? Here's the big one. I think is very important, often overlooked. Having a family living budget and kind of having it separate. Now we'll commingle them, Why? Because 28% of farm expenses or living expenses are commingled. And here's where we run into problems is when grandpa and grandma living down in Arizona or the kids living away have their cell phone or they'll have their insurance plans and it's still a draw on the business. And then that comes back in and influences the break even. But boy, this is one, I'm going to give everybody a shout out today. Okay. And over the next couple of days, a deliberate educational program of owners, management, employees. So one of the things is check off what you respond and then